Technological unemployment, which is the unemployment caused by the use of machines as vehicles of labor, has continually and systematically forced relevant numbers of people out of every single new emerging sector for the past 300 years. Our current employment market is basically broken into three sectors: agriculture, including mining and fishing, manufacturing, tangible goods, and service, intangible goods. As a near universal social progression, all societies tend to follow the same developmental path, which takes them from a reliance on agriculture and extraction towards the development of manufacturing, such as automobiles, textiles, shipbuilding, steel, and finally towards a more service-based system. Naturally, the only reason some countries are farther behind in this process than others has to do with the affordability of the technology required to make it move to the next level. It's irrespective of social system or political disposition. It is a scientific progression. So let's consider this phenomenon using the United States as a proxy. Coming from the States, that's a lot of where my data comes from, but please note that this can be applied to any economy. In 1860, 60% of Americans worked in the agricultural sector. However, today, due to advancements in machinery and automation, less than 1%. Fortunately, those technological advancements also gave rise to an emerging industrial revolution, and by 1950, 33% were employed in the factory-based manufacturing sector. As of now, due to continual advancements in machine automation, it is less than 8%. So considering that only roughly 9%, granted, there's probably a few percent leeway on there, depending on which analysts you use. So there's only 9% of Americans working in agriculture and manufacturing now. Where did everybody else go? Service sector. The only thing that has saved the U.S. labor market after the technological renovation of the agricultural and manufacturing sectors is flight to the service industry. From 1950 to 2002, U.S. employment in the service sector went from 59% to 82%. The service sector is the dominant employer of Americans today, along with all other industrialized countries. Of course, this begs the question, is this sector insusceptible to the wrath of technological unemployment? Of course not. With the advent of increasing versatile computer technologies, we are seeing job displacement once again, this time in all service industries. The replacement of tellers and cashiers with kiosks, the use of automated voice systems for phone service, the internet has completely redefined retail, not to mention full kiosk systems in physical marketplaces, advanced food prep machines, and even research done by automation these days. As economist Stephen Roach has warned, the service sector has lost its role as America's unbridled engine of job creation. As a unique example, in Germany, the first completely automated restaurant is in operation. It uses kiosks for ordering and payment. The food is served by a fully mechanized system. There is zero wait staff. There is no reason that this idea could not be done with every single eating establishment in the world. In fact, if one was to think creatively about the application of technology in general, in isolation you see pockets of things where you see a news report about a certain technology that can do certain things. If you were to apply those creatively, I don't see how 90% of the entire service industry couldn't be wiped out tomorrow. The only reason it hasn't been done is because the focus of society is backwards when it comes to social progress. To illustrate this point more so, let's stop thinking about technology in terms of unemployment for a moment and consider it from the angle of productivity. The most incredible relationship of all of this is that the more technological employment increases, the more productive things become. In the G7 advanced industrialized countries, employment in manufacturing has been dropping, but manufacturing output has been rising. Here is the chart. I think it's quite profound. I love this. The truth is that the U.S. manufacturing is doing quite well in every way except the number of people it employs. Furthermore, a few economists would judge the health or sickness of any industry based solely on employment. By that standard, agriculture has been the sickest industry of all for decades because employment has declined, although farm productivity rose dramatically in the past century. Industrial health is better measured by output, productivity, profitability, and wages. The person is completely forgetting one universal thing. If human laborers are displaced, they cannot obtain purchasing power. If they cannot obtain purchasing power, they cannot fuel the economy by consumption. So on that level, it doesn't matter how productive we are. No one can buy anything. The phenomenon has been termed by some theorists as the contradiction of capitalism. For not only is the obsolescence of the human labor force the obsolescence of the consumer, the high level of output generated by technological efficiency makes the corporate motivation to pursue such advanced means very strong, even though it is economically self-defeating over time. In other words, regardless of the level of productivity, if people don't have jobs, they can't buy anything. This very fact alone, that productivity is inverse to employment in all sectors, should be enough to warrant a deliberate shift from the focus of human labor to a system where technology is given the highest priority. The system is literally denying peak production, and in a world where 1 billion are starving, I think that's extremely despotic. And this brings us to one of the most profound points of this talk, the social intent. Should the focus of society be to create and preserve jobs? Or should the focus of society be to maximize production and create abundance? It is either one direction or the other. You can't have both. Sadly, what you are seeing in the world today is, quote, the deliberate withholding of social efficiency for the sake of preserving the status quo. I say that again because I want you guys to use that. The deliberate withholding of social efficiency is what our system does. The main reason outside of employment pressure is that you do not see technology being liberally used for all purposes imaginable, including the generation of food, energy, and material abundance, is because our financial system is based entirely on the perpetuation of scarcity and inefficiency. Why? Because it is the most self-preserving and profitable. If a company makes a car that can last 60 years without service and also runs without the need for perpetual refueling through battery power, the aftermarket value of that car is virtually zero, and billions of dollars will be lost over time due to the now obsolete consumer oil and auto service market industries. This could happen right now, again. Why doesn't it? Because the economic system literally couldn't work if it shifted its focus towards optimum efficiency. Our entire system, in an economic sense, is based on constriction. Scarcity and inefficiencies are the movers of money. The more there is of any resource, the less you can charge for it. The more problems there are, the more opportunities there are to make money. This reality is a social disease. For people could actually gain off of the misery of others and the destruction of the environment. It's called moral hazard in the insurance industry. The whole system is moral hazard. Efficiency, abundance, and sustainability are enemies of our economic structure, for they are inverse to the mechanics required to perpetuate consumption. This is profoundly critical to understand, for once you put this together, you begin to see that the 1 billion people currently starving on this planet, the endless slums of the poor, and all the horrors in the culture due to poverty and depravity are not natural phenomena due to some natural human order or lack of earthly resources. They are products of the creation, perpetuation, and preservation of artificial scarcity and inefficiency. To add insult to injury, this scarcity is not only perpetuated in the markets of consumer goods and services, but also manifests in a way which influences the behavior of the whole of society, through making sure that even money itself is perpetually limited in supply. As denoted in Zeitgeist Addendum, the central banks of the world almost all create money out of debt through loans. These loans are produced with interest, yet only the principal is created in the money supply, creating a perpetual deficit in supply. The debts generated by these loans, in turn, serve as virtual prison cells for the average citizen, keeping them willing to work off their debt, putting them in a perpetual state of obligation. There's a word for that. It's called slavery, debt slavery. The money isn't real. The interest sure isn't real. The debt is not real. The whole thing is an illusion. The whole world today is now stuck in the illusion that there isn't enough money to do this or that. 98% of the countries in the world are actually in debt to other countries and banks.